What a crowd. You guys packed the room. So my name is Jamie Wine, and I work as a community educator at People for Puget Sound, which is sponsoring this event. And if you didn't catch it on the way in, there's a chance to become a member. This kind of event is supported by membership if you're not already. Is anyone here a member already of People for Puget Sound? Nice, represent. Thank you for your support, we appreciate it. Another thing that we do is advocacy work, and we're advocating right now. One of our policy pushes is for aquatic reserves. There's new aquatic reserves being designated in Puget Sound by the Department of Natural Resources. And if I'm talking too fast, someone in the back, raise your hand. I do that a lot. The Department of Natural Resources is designating new aquatic reserves, and in June they're going to release their plans. And we're trying to gather the forces, bring the troops together, circle the wagons, whatever analogy you want to use. And the way we do that is through activist alerts. So if you'd like to be part of our activist corps, there's a table over there with our big trifold on it. And there's a sign-up sheet to be on our activist alert list. And we'll let you know where to show up, to sign petitions, to make phone calls, so that we can get the best aquatic reserve protections possible in Puget Sound. So if you'd like to do that, please do that afterwards. But tonight, you're all here to see Kurt Hoelting, who wrote a pretty awesome book. Now, Kurt and I kind of did a dry run last night at a bar in Everett. It was awesome. And it wasn't a dry run. And there were 15 or 16 activists from Everett there that asked very meaningful, great questions about his book. But basically, if you don't know Kurt, he was born in Seattle, and he grew up in Vancouver, BC, and in Bellingham, Washington. He's done a lot of things. That's why I have notes. He went to UW as an undergraduate, and then Harvard Divinity School. He's spent time working as a clergyman, a commercial fisherman, a wilderness guide, and a meditation teacher. And in 1994, he founded Inside Passage, which is it's an outfitter kayaking company up in Southeast Alaska. In 2008, which you all came here to hear more about, he took a year off from being inside a car. And I found out last night, he's married, his wife Sally is here tonight. I found out that meant that when they went to things together, that she went separate, and he would leave earlier and bike and ride the bus. So he really committed to changing his lifestyle. And I learned a lot about how Kurt's transformation could be my transformation, and the things that I can change in my own life. So the way it's going to be formatted tonight is Kurt is going to do some readings for a while, and then we're going to have a question and answer. This is being taped for a radio program, so when you have a question, raise your hand and I'll call you up, and we're going to alternate between the question mics at the end. So don't yell questions out during the presentation, because it won't get into the radio part. But without much further ado, Kurt Hoelting.
Thank you all for coming. It's really wonderful to see so many good friends, and also so many new friends and people that I haven't met until tonight. This is a really wonderful, it feels really celebratory to me, having so many friends and such good energy. I don't think I've had as many hugs as I had tonight with people coming in here. I don't have so many people gathered in one place from so many different parts of my life. I don't know if I ever have, actually. So this is really wonderful. And I want to say that it really is an honor to be here on behalf of People for Puget Sound. Let's give a hand to this wonderful organization. So this event is actually one of the Earth Week events that People for Puget Sound has sponsored. And as you probably know, this a week ago. Earth Day was the 40th anniversary of Earth Day. So a lot has happened and a lot has changed in those 40 years. I was at the University of Washington. By the way, I grew up in Bellevue, not Bellingham. Just want to note that little geographical change. When I was at the University of Washington in 1970, I was there for the first Earth Day celebration, which was a really major event in my own life and my own development. A lot of what I have gone on to do, a lot of what I love and have attempted to commit my life to was really shaped in no small part by my experience with Earth Day back that first year. And what I did in 2008 was a response to the fact that a lot has changed in those 40 years. Some things that we cared about then, we obviously still care about. Those of us, many here in this room, working on behalf of issues in the restoration of Puget Sound, lots of issues, working still toward habitat restoration, toward timber reform policies, and on and on. And that remains really important. But in 1970, we didn't see the storm clouds that were already building on the horizon in terms of climate change. That was already beginning to happen, and now we know a lot more about climate change. And it was my own feeling of being stuck and my own sense of this growing gap between what I care about and what, my understanding of what it is that we're up against on the one hand, and the way that I have been living my life, and realizing that my own high carbon lifestyle was something that I needed to face into in a different kind of way than I had before. To begin to bring, or at least attempt, to bring a greater sense of alignment between my values and how I was living my life in relation to many things, but in particular, sort of underneath all of it, my sense that we really are at a defining moment in so many ways in the history of the human family, not just in our own culture and our own time in history, but in the history of the human family. In my introduction, I write, "This much is clear to me. If I can't change my own life in response to the greatest challenge now facing our human family, who can? And if I'm not willing to try, why should anyone else?" So I've decided to start at home and begin with myself. The question is no longer whether I must respond. The question is whether I can turn my response into an adventure. So that's what I vowed and committed myself to doing in 2008. And this happened after I took my carbon footprint, after I'd seen Al Gore's documentary, An Inconvenient Truth, which really started to kind of turn up the heat on my own discomfort with the gap in my own life. And my sense that I was projecting too much of my frustration outward onto other people. Politicians who weren't acting, car companies